Okay, here we are. This is our final video for our experience this year. We're going to be making plaster masks, and in this video I'm going to show you how to kind of put together and sculpt to your plan. I'm not going to show you, but you will be able to sand it down and paint it at the end. Maybe I'll work on that another time, but I believe you guys are pretty decent at painting to begin with. So first of all, you had to do is pick something. I picked an Aztec style mask to make. You could do an animal, you could do an actual person if you really wanted to. We start with a shell that is an actual face, and then we build up on that. So if you do an animal, you have to kind of add features to it as well. And we're going to do that with newspaper. You're going to have plaster, and you have to cut the strips. So we just cut them. I usually cut them into like 1-inch strips, and if I need something smaller, I just cut it down from there. I'll set those aside. And then if you can see, it kind of creates a lot of mess. So I did give you a big brown piece of paper to lay down on whatever table or surface you're working on. You might need some extra newspaper to make things that you're going to put onto your mask, whether it be, mine is the crown. I'm gonna have to start cutting that as well. Or if you have an animal, you might need a snout. So I would make that out of newspaper, crumple up newspaper, use a little tape, masking tape, duct tape, whatever kind of tape you like. And I would tape that into position before I started to work with my plaster strips. So if I were to make a dog or a lion or, I don't know, a donkey or anything along the lines, something that has a snout, a cat as also. There's a couple people that wanted to do some kind of cat form. You would just kind of sculpt it out of newspaper and then tape it on ahead of time so you can kind of plan out where you're putting things. I didn't use much paper, and I just crumpled it up into a ball and taped it. And then when I go to put my plaster strips on, it should hold into place. And then when we pull the plaster off, it'll come out of the back of the plaster as well. So, think of that ahead of time. Is there anything large that you're going to need to add onto your face that you'll need to kind of put in later, or you can work on now or get it on ahead of time. So this one too has a crown. I think I'm going to put a lot of that on afterwards. And to start, I'm just gonna kind of try to map out the shape of the face, and then I'll add on my other features. Okay, so things you'll need: newspaper, your brown paper for your table, a bowl with water, scissors to cut your strips or the newspaper, because I gave you a big piece that you're gonna cut down into strips, and then that tape, so any form of tape that you have that you can use to kind of put things in place. All right, so when I go to start, you don't need to put anything on this. You should just make sure that it's pretty clean. I'm pretty sure I gave you clean ones. And you're gonna use these plaster strips. So the plaster strips are very messy. They cause a lot of dust. So what you have to do is dunk it in the water, okay? It activates with water. You lay it onto your base and smooth it over. The smoothing over part is very important because it helps to smooth the texture of your mask. You want to layer your pieces, so it's not going to be one layer, one thin layer. You want it to be a couple layers, and just kind of smooth it out and get rid of any kind of little holes that you see up here. There we go. And you're just going to do a layer or two of just the strips themselves. So I'm going to get that down. It doesn't take long. So it usually takes about like 2 class periods to actually build. One to get your foundation down, and the second one is to add all the features. So that's why I thought this was a good project to kind of get in at the end of the year. And it's really fun to work with the plaster and to try something different, something very 3-dimensional. We've been very 2-dimensional this year, so it's always good to get another project in. Smooth it out. We are going to do another layer, so it doesn't have to be 100% smooth the first time, but you want to get it as smooth as possible. And if you notice, I am layering this at different angles as well. So I'll do some of them, maybe I'll put on vertical, some horizontal. I'll make a cross, like an X or a T, and that kind of creates a very strong structure. If you did it all in one direction, it could come apart a little bit or have like seams that pop up. So it's nice to kind of vary the direction of which you're putting the plaster strips before you, you know, get the whole thing on. Definitely change it up a bit. Change the direction. You can see how much mess I'm already kind of making here just by blending them in. And they're pretty stiff, the strips, until you get the, dunk them in water, and then they soften up. And you just want to kind of smooth them so you get rid of that seam of where you're putting it on. And any of the little bumps or spots that show up, little holes in the plaster as well. So I'm going to keep doing this. Maybe I'll make a time lapse later on of me finishing the building of it. But we'll get them, at least the first layer, on together so that you have a good understanding of how much and where to go. Don't use too much. That was a little too much water. All right, that was too much water. Don't do that. I didn't shake it off before I got on. So you can also like dunk it, and then some people like to smooth it a little bit before. I think that kind of like pushes a lot of the plaster off, so you got to be careful doing that as well. More on the sides, and you want to go down the sides. So I'm gonna go down the sides here. Okay, smooth it out as best you can. Go around the top. Definitely need more up top. You know, you can pick this thing up and move it around if you need. There we go. One going this way. And another one going this way, down the side. Okay. And you can always cut the edges once you have kind of got a nice base down and it dries and we pulled off the base. You can always cut the edges too to even them out, so you don't leave them all kind of uneven or bumpy. There we go. And then just go around the edges here. See how quickly this is kind of going? If you want to do it fast, or you need to do it fast, it can happen. Let's see, almost done my first layer. So once you kind of gone around at least once with a full layer, let's see. Oop. There we go. And let's do this one. Around here. And I got one more to go across the top and we're good. I think we're almost about done here. There we go. Rub these on. And so this is pretty much my base layer. I've kind of done almost about one nice heavy coat that goes around and across the middle here. You lose a little bit of detail like in the areas of the lips, but you can always put that back in later on as well. So one thing you can start doing next is start making the features. So on mine, the nose is kind of a bit larger. So if I dunk one of the strips in the water, and I can kind of fold it up and add it on and make it bigger. It's like almost like a pyramid, which is very Mayan looking, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if that's something that translate with more of their art and culture, is that trapezoid structure. So I'm going to make this a very interesting trapezoid structure and kind of try to blend it on the best that I can. And I'm just building up this area because this nose needs to be a lot larger as it shows in my design. So I'll show you my design. Hold on. And I'm just blending this in. There we go. So you can see how almost like a perfect triangle in a sense, but it's almost like a pyramid. It does have a point. So I want to get this kind of angled point to it too. And it doesn't have to be exact to your image. I'm definitely not going to make mine exact to my image. I don't think I have first of all, probably enough time, and second of all, enough strips for mine, but I will try to get it pretty close to what I need it to look like. There we go. It's wider. Smooth that out a little more. And then the same thing, the lips, the mouth is open. So what I want to do with this one is maybe I can twist the plaster strip and make a circular ring for the opening of the mouth. So it's the lips. The lips are going to be open. So I just kind of dunk my plaster strip, twist it, and stack it. And see if I can get like a really nice circular ring right here. There we go. So it really doesn't take too much to build up what you're looking for. You just have to take the time to figure out how much you're going to need and smooth it out. There we go. There's my mouth. So I already have my mouth. I have my nose, which is a wider nose. My eyes are cut out, and I can always cut those out later if I want, but I could also frame them. So if I dunk my plaster strip in, just like I did last time, I can kind of make that shape. So it's going to have an arch at the top and then like a triangle at the bottom. So I made an arch, and then I'm going to make a triangle. So I'm just taking my strip, and it's kind of close to the nose, but not that close. So I'm just going to try to make this shape. And I think when I paint it, it's going to really pop too. So I'm just framing where the eye opening is, so you can kind of see where I'm putting it. And then maybe if it's thin enough, I can cut it out later on, or just paint it black. One of the two. Okay, so then I want to make another one to match the other side. Dunk my plaster strip in, twist it up, make the top arch, and then make the bottom triangular shape. And try to get them even, especially at most masks or creatures or whatever you're making. The eyes are pretty even. So one eye should look just like the other one. So I just gotta play with this a little bit and try to get the right shape that I'm looking for. And if you notice, it really is starting to dry very quickly. My nose is pretty hard already. The lips aren't going to move already. I mean, I just made those. Same with the eye. It dries very fast. Very, very fast. So right now I have kind of the nose, the eyes, and the mouth made. And then the next thing I would go to is the headset. So if I was doing the headset, one thing I could do is, make some of the shapes out of newspaper or even cardboard. Maybe this could go down the side for the side piece. And what I would do is I would wrap these individually first and smooth them. And then I would put them on. And then I would just put them on with the plaster and stick them on. We could always hot glue things if they don't stick properly. Or you can just use whatever glue you have at your house or your home. So I'm just going to kind of wrap this up, and then I can kind of figure out where I want it. And if it's wet, I could probably press it and keep it on there until, I need to see if it will stick together, because that plaster will seal together, just like glue would. But otherwise, get your base. I consider this my base structure here. And then the headdress would be like the day number 2 or my second sitting on making this. I've only been working on this about 15 minutes, and I already have my base structure done. About 5 minutes more, 10 minutes more it takes to just set up. And then once you get a nice, good base structure, you're all set and ready to go. And then one thing I can do also is I can, once this whole thing is put together, take some sandpaper and smooth off any rough areas that I have left behind. Because it does tend to have rough quality. So when you go to paint, it kind of makes a bumpy quality when you go to paint it. So if we want to smooth that down a little, we can always do that once it's dry. But you have to wait till it's completely dry. And you could tell, like right now, it feels a little warm. Plaster gets warm when it's working and molding and working. So once it's dry, it doesn't feel so warm anymore. Okay, and so I mean, on my headdress, I can make this also part with newspaper, or if I had a piece of cardboard, I can cut a perfect arch, wrap it in plaster, and then stick it on. And that's something else you can do too. Same if you have ears. So if these are bunny ears or something, I could always make them and stick them on, you know, with the plaster, and then or glue them later if I had to. And then we would just paint it. When this is dry, it pops right off this base. So make sure that it is definitely dry enough. And I would do at least 2 or 3 coats around the edge to make a nice strong outside edge. I would hate to see this crack or break after we kind of pull it off the base, okay? So that should get you going and get you building. If you have questions, you can email me. I am gonna try to do a time lapse to finish building my mask so you can see me working. And then I can post that as well. All right, good luck.